Okay, thanks everyone for coming to BDMS talk. Today we are very happy to have Sister Sylvia. Sister Sylvia has dedicated herself to the study and practice of the Buddha's teaching since 1992. She holds a BA Honours in Buddhist Study from the Buddhist and Pali University of Sri Lanka and was a lecturer with Albert Mater. She also has a Master's in International Public Policy from Johns Hopkins School of Advanced Studies. Since 2001, Sister Sylvia has been a regular speaker on Buddhist doctrine and practical application at local and regional Buddhist organizations. In 2013, she published her first book, Between the Lines, an analytical appreciation of the Buddha's life. And she is now working on another book titled Towards the Light, the Buddha's Guide to Heavenly Rebirth. Okay, without much further ado, I shall hand it over to Ms. Sylvia.
Okay, thank you, Brother Julian, for the warm welcome. We're going to start with a short chanting, paying homage to the Buddha. I would invite everyone to join me, even if I can't hear you saying it. I think you should, to give thanks to our teacher who had left behind this doctrine. Let us now pay homage to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. It's BDMS practice to have something called the invocation. So I'm just going to read through this. With reverence for the Buddha's words and attentiveness of mind, we will strive to know the Dhamma thoroughly, with diligence and care, so that we can attain what the Buddha attained. We will strive to practice the Dhamma fully. We love in our hearts, and because truth is the greatest gift, we will share the Dhamma generously with others. I'm going to talk about Madhupiṇḍika Sutta, and Bhante Bhikkhu Bodhi had translated this as Discourse on the Honey Ball. We will know at the end of the sutta why it's called Honey Ball. And we are covering essentially 4 points, four key areas. First, I'm going to offer an introductory thoughts about the sutta. Then I will take you through the backdrop and the sutta proper, at the end of which we should think about what are some of the takeaway from the sutta. This sutta is complex. It's not easy. It's very hard, actually. One of the harder ones to understand. And because it is so, scholars through the ages love the sutta. They love to examine it, take it apart, write tons of books on this. For me, I am more concerned about how do we apply the teaching. And because it is complex, it requires you to really spare a thought to think about the mind. I said that it's a difficult subject matter. Why? Mainly because we are talking about the mind, the nature of our mind. And this beautiful sutta in three key stanzas, Buddha captured how the mind works. So I said the sutta deals with the nature of cognition, i.e. how we perceive, how we think, how we experience the world. This is how mind experiences reality. And in the sutta, it is pointed out how the experience itself is inherently faulty. The nature of how we think is faulty. And as a result of that faultiness, as a result of that problem, the mind is caught in what I call a samsaric no-win trap. You get in and then you spin in a delusional way. By its very nature. Fortunately, once you begin to understand how the mind works, you have a chance of breaking free. That is why our practice, the Dhamma practice, once you get it, it is called liberation. You are free from the trap presented by your own mind. Okay? So under So What, it's about how do we apply what we understand in our daily life. The trick, two parts. One, understand correctly, because only when you understand correctly can you practice rightly. If you understand wrongly, you'll be hammering at the wrong thing, and then nothing works. Okay? So my approach today is to tackle this. I will tackle the whole sutta, but I'm going to emphasize on three key elements, three key areas. These three key areas I'll spend a lot of time explaining because it is necessary for one to understand those three, the teaching of that three components. Okay? Then the rest, because it's part of the sutta and part of the story, I will just go through and share some interesting and fascinating insights. Okay? So we start with the backdrop. In every sutta that is of some length, understanding the backdrop is important. Because the backdrop is when things happen and the Buddha was addressing to the issue at hand. Okay? So we start. Thus have I heard, at one time Buddha was staying in the land of the Sakyans near Kapilavatthu in the Banyan 3 monastery. This translation was done by Ajahn Sujato. This is one unique time when I'm using two translations. This is Ajahn Sujato's translation. You can find it in Sutta Central. I introduced the word Nigrodha's part because that is Bhante Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation. Okay? And you will find him referred to as BB for short. Bhante Bhikkhu Bodhi. Okay? The Buddha woke up in the morning, taking his bow, robe, entered Kapilavatthu for alms. He wandered for alms in Kapilavatthu. After his meal, on his return from alms round, he went to the great wood, plunged deep into it, sat at the root of a young wood apple tree for the day's meditation. Incident took place in Kapilavatthu. I'm guessing that this is probably relatively new in the Buddha's dispensation. We know that in his 9th year, after he left home, he actually went back to Kapilavatthu to go and convert his family, to bring the Dhamma to his family. I'm guessing that this incident happened then. And the reason for that is not just because it happened in Kapilavatthu, but you see what it says throughout here. He was alone. We know that the last 20 plus years of his life, Ananda was always with him. We also know that Ananda was not his first attendant. Ananda was his 4th attendant. There were 3 before Ananda. And those three, for some reason or another, were not very good at attending to the Buddha. Some of them left him. Halfway through, they just dropped his robe and they went away. Some of them just let him down because for whatever reasons they argue with him and so on and so forth. So, but what we do know is the second half of the Buddha's life, he did require an attendant. Probably, in my view, probably because he had some health issues. So right here, we know he was alone. He was wandering all over the place alone. He had to be quite young then, okay? And the other interesting thing is that he had a pattern of, he has a system. He takes his meal, he goes in on his own, he go and meditate. That was his life. He meditate. In a day, he will do it a few times, okay? And if you remember in the earlier para, it was, he went deep into the forest, okay? Daṇḍapāṇi, the Sakyan, while going for a walk, plunged deep into the great wood, approached the Buddha, exchanged great greetings, and right now still pretty good, polite greeting, stood on one side, leaning on his staff, and said to the Buddha, what does the ascetic teach? What does he explain? Now, you recall he went deep into the forest. This guy went deep into the forest for his walk. Maybe he actually went to deliberately look for the Buddha. Maybe, okay? But there's a pretty good chance this was his intention. His name is called Daṇḍapāṇi. Literally, it means a stick in hand. So you would assume he's quite old. But no, the commentary actually said he's young. He was a young man. Not only was he young, commentary also said this guy is subsequently, he was Devadatta's supporter. So straight away, you know this guy, 不是好事啊, he is a problem. He went in and it wasn't a friendly inquiry. How do we know? He was standing. In those old days, they have certain rules of engagement. If you are respectful of the individual, you will sit lower than the individual. This is to tell this is their social mores. They will tell the individual, I'm your student. I'm being respectful, so I sit lower than you. That is why you always come across the word, Buddha sat on a prepared chair, Buddha sat on a high chair, something like that. The idea is he is elevated. So this guy, speaking to an ascetic, stood and talked. And he said, so what you teach? What is it that you teach? This is not respectful. This is looking for a fight. So when you listen to this talk explained by other teachers, they will use the word sarcasm. He was being sarcastic. And some would use the word, he was being confrontational, he was being difficult. Okay. You see the number here, 1. This is the first of the 3 stanzas that I'm going to highlight, okay? Buddha said, and this one you got to read carefully. And here I use Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation because his translation is closest to the Pali words. For this sutta, I went through the Pali words very carefully. And you will see in subsequent slides, there are actually many Pali words. It's very important because you want to refer to the Buddha's use of certain words to capture the mind. And because this is how he described the mind, you wanted his words. You want his words. So here you see, friend, awuso. He used the word awuso, so friend. Buddha was being respectful. I assert and proclaim such a teaching. It's Bhikkhu Bodhi introducing that word, that one does not quarrel with anyone in the world, with its gods, maras, brahmans, in this generation, with its recluses and brahmins, princes and people. Such a teaching that perceptions no more underline that Brahmin who abides detached from sensual pleasures, without perplexity, shorn of worry, free from craving for any kind of being. That was the Buddha's reply. When he had spoken, Daṇḍapāṇi shook his head, wagged his tongue, raised his eyebrow until his brow puckered in 3 furrows, and he departed leaning on his staff, meaning to say he was clueless. He got confused, he got deflated, he left. I said 3 stones. No, 1 stone, 3 birds, right? First, he said, what do you teach? And Daṇḍapāṇi said, Buddha said, my teaching is such that the Brahmin, the person who is practicing, will no longer quarrel with people. That's his first point. And you ask me what I teach. I tell you, my teaching is such that people no longer quarrel with the world. So he answered the question. He did not answer. He answered the question. And then he went on to say, the individual no longer, his perception no longer underline the Brahmin. Brahmin actually refers to the practitioner. Why Brahmin? Because in the ancient time, the Brahmin is supposed to be the highest man. So he is saying that one who takes on the training is the highest man, or is a very elevated man. And he has no more views. This guy came along and said, what are you teaching? He says, no more views. I got no more sanya. No more sanya. He will abide with no sanya, detached from sensual pleasure, without perplexity and so on. So what the Buddha did was to literally package his teaching in a summary. I said, sum up the Dhamma in terms of explaining the mind of one who had completed the training, realized the pinnacle state of Nibbana. He didn't want to argue with Daṇḍapāṇi. If he were to say, my thing, we talk about the Four Noble Truths, Eightfold Path, etc., 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 first the other guy is just going to argue. And that was his intent, to argue. Buddha didn't want to argue with him. He deflated the guy by saying, I don't argue. My teaching, when you understand, has no argument with anybody. Literally, bo wei gong liao lo. Okay? Not finished yet. Now we talk about why is this a summary of the Dhamma. Okay? The Pali word was sanya. Sanya, as you know, is one of 5 grasping aggregates. Sanya. This is very important. Right now, I'm just going to do one short explanation of the 5 aggregates, 5 grasping aggregates. They are the elements of us that cause that we will cling on to. Any of these 5 aggregates is what the individual will cling on to. So we will cling on to the form. We will identify with the form. We will call the form I, mine, self. And we will cling to the point of ignoring the fact that the form dies, that it can, that it will, not it can, it will die, that it will move, it will finish, disintegrate. The same goes for Vedana, feelings. We all cling on to feelings. We will identify feeling as I, myself, and there is a part in us that kind of assume that feelings is lasting. We will cling on to sanya, which is this one. Sanya is translated, has been translated as perception. But this sanya, this word keeps popping up in this sutta. So it's very important for us all to be very clear what this means. Sanya means that in you that recognizes, not just perceive. English word perceive is incomplete. It knows, it recognizes, it has a word for anything. So when you don't recognize there is no sanya, you see, and then there's a blank. The mind is blank. It doesn't react. It doesn't register. That's no sanya. Sanya will register. Sanya will know. Okay? That is why I said sanya underpins all contentions and differentiations. You want to argue, it always starts with sanya. Because you perceive right, wrong. You perceive correct. It's like that. When you have that recognition, it's like that. That is sanya. Sankhara is thinking, constructing. Bhante Thanissaro calls it, or Ajahn Thanissaro calls it fabrication. It means construction. Yan Yan calls it formations. it's construction. So Sankhara is construction. And Vijnana is the experience. When everyone comes together, there is an experience. That is Vijnana. So Sanya is the start of problem when it comes to a fight. Okay? When it comes to a fight. Because in any arguments, there must be a view and sense and idea. The idea that pops up in your mind, that is Sanya. So he said his teaching is such that when one trains to the logical conclusion, the Sanya comes down. There is the Sanya no longer underlying. It comes down. It doesn't keep forming views. It doesn't have strong views. And how does this happen? I loosely translate it for you. Okay, this is a loose translation. It's not beautiful. It's not elegant. But that's the idea. It is to help you understand it better. No longer quarrel the world because he has no son. He no longer has the sanya. He's not attached to sensual pleasure. Without sanya, you are not perplexed. Without sanya, there is no worry. Without sanya, you do not crave for becoming and becoming and becoming. Okay? That's his teaching. So, takeaway. What is our takeaway? You know you are practicing well if you have less and less views. Sanya, you are less and less caught up in your perception of what is not. Training, I said, will lead to a clearer state of knowing, present, mindfulness. And in your mindfulness, you are not caught up in objects. You become more aware of presence of mind, and more aware when your mind is not quickly jumping onto object and identifying them. Not jumping onto object and identifying. Number one, you will become more and more aware that you have less and less and less instinctive views. Number two, you will significantly be less caught up with sensual pleasures. What is sense pleasure? Seeing, hearing, tasting, all this will be covered later again. Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. It's your engagements with the world. And the regular person, I will use a Hokkien word, 假扮不是做, will go out and engage the world. He will see, he will look for things to do, he will check his iPhone, iPad, he will go or Android, you mentioned it, he will go watch movies, he will read a book, he has to engage the eyes. And he will listen to music. He will chit-chat with people. He will sometimes talk a lot just to keep himself entertained. If you are bored, what do? You go look for food. It's engaging the taste. All these is sensual pleasures. Then you have the mind to go and pay attention to all these sensual pleasures and remember them. You don't remember, it's over. But if the mind remembers, then the mind remembers the delight, then the mind wants to go and repeat broadcast. So you engaging sensual pleasures will feed the mind. The mind, in its happy delighting, will then go and seek out sensual pleasures to engage. So that's why I said sense indulgence feeds sanya. This is what he said earlier. One, his training is such that no more sanya belies him and underlines him, who is less caught up with sensual pleasures. It's devoid. The guy has no more sensual pleasure. No more sensual pleasure, nothing feeding the mind. Less doubt, less worry. I said all manner of thinking creates doubt and worry. You look at your own mind. For every minute that you stop thinking, there is no worry. Worry starts when you start thinking. If you tell yourself it's okay, let be, it stops. There is no worry. Yeah, but then is when the worry will start. And it's the same for this doubt. It's not doubt in the Buddha. It is that sense in you that has conviction and confidence. That confidence and conviction will shake every time you talk. So you think about this, you say, I believe in the Buddha. You say that, I believe in the Buddha, Dhamma, and Sangha. Yeah, but what if Buddha is wrong? That's it. That sense of uncertainty will arise. And then you say, no, he's right. Yeah, but that inside you say, yeah, but what if? That's when the problem will start. And this is not just Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha. This is everything. In your relationship with another, if you were to question his intention, straight away you have doubt about his personality and his character. If you were to question, if you were to say something like, I don't know if I should say this, but the but is a killer of trust. You see what I'm saying? Anyhow, so all manner of thinking creates doubt and worries. And the last one, freer from living for craving of being. Living in the moment, not caught up in wanting to be this and that. You see, if you have not a lot of desire, and the Brahmin trained in the Buddha's path no longer have craving, no longer have this, that, or that. In his mind, he's just present and he's in the moment. He then doesn't have thoughts that spin him into the, I want to enjoy this, I want to experience that, let me think about this, it makes me happy when I think like that, and so on and so forth. Those are thinking. Those, you may say there's a sankhara, yes, but all sankhara starts with sanya. There is a start point, and your start point is sanya. Okay? So we move on. You remember Daṇḍapāṇi left, then the Buddha went on, and then he went back. He continues to meditate. When it was evening, rose from meditation, went to his monastery, where he sat down on a seat made ready for him. And then he reported to the bhikkhu, he basically recounted to the bhikkhu what happened. And the bhikkhu themselves were confused. He said, but Venerable Sir, what is the teaching that the Buddha asserts whereby one does this, and the bhikkhu's specific question is, how is it that perception no more underline that Brahmin? How does sanya end? Right? Because this is all about sanya. How does it end? The bhikkhu understands this part. You are supposed to be detached from the sensual pleasure. He understands this is a training. But how does this happen? Perception no more underline that Brahmin. How does that happen? Okay. Then that set the stage for the second one. Here the Buddha said, as to the source through which perceptions and notions tinged by mental proliferation, Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, as to the source through which perceptions, notions tinged by mental proliferation, and the word is papañcasaññāsaṅkhā. Papañcasaññāsaṅkhā. I want you all to remember this word. Papañcasaññāsaṅkhā. Beset samuddacharanti. Comes often. Okay, coming often. Forget about the English big word. It means it floods the person often. Beset a man. If nothing is found there to delight in, welcome, hold on to. This is the end of the underlying tendency to lust, underlying tendency for aversion, view, doubt, conceit, desire for being, ignorance. Because of this said, it is the end of resorting to rods and weapons of quarrel, browse, dispute, reclamation, etc., etc. Here, these evil, unwholesome states cease without remainder. Okay? 明白吗? 明白吗? Yeah. Now we're going to break apart that chunk. Cryptic passage. The word, this understanding of this passage hinges on the word papañca and the compound word papañcasaññāsaṅkhā. Okay? I'm not so brilliant. I was brilliant in finding someone who explained this brilliantly. So I'm going to share it with you. It came from an article. The web link I will attach at the end. It came from an article written by the editor of Insight Journal, Andrew Olansky. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. And this is what he said. The exact derivation of the word papañca is not entirely clear, but there are three ideas here. The word papañca has three ideas. And this is brilliant. You must remember these three ideas because the three of them are like power pack, battery pack in our mind. They drive. They are the delusional drivers in there, okay? It moves out and it proliferates. It spins, in other words. There is a spinning mechanism going on, okay? There is a spinning momentum going on. There is illusion and obsession. The second idea is when you see something, your mind will spin, but it spins based on its perception. Perception which is delusional and obsession. Meaning to say, when you see something and your mind starts to spin, right at that point, it's already spinning on the wrong axis. It's already salah. The moment you see, your mind will start to tell its own story. And it will tell far and fast, okay? Proliferating is far and fast. And it can proliferate exponentially. And the more worried you are, the faster they will spin. The more agitated you are, the faster your thoughts will fly. And it will fly based on your story. If your story, the odds are your story is incorrect, wrong basis. And the more it tells a story, the more it's caught up in its own story. So illusion and obsession implies that it's wrong and it's caught up. It's fixated. I will just stop here and you think about how you look at things, right? You see someone you don't like and your entire history with that someone, or your entire Wikipedia of that someone in your words will appear as the baseline. And you don't even have to do anything. You see someone you don't like, it happens. You see someone you like, it also happens. It carries its entire volume of the National Library with you when you see things. And how you move on from there is anchored on that view, that perception. Okay? And the third one, it says, is an obstacle and an impediment to mental calm and clarity of mind. How many of us sitting down here will say we have problems meditating? I will bet my last dollar that many of us, even the ones who can meditate and do it regularly, will have days when meditation a bit off, lor. Don't know why. It's because of papañcasaññāsaṅkhā. This problem, this is an obstacle to the mind settling down. Every time you want to meditate, you find your mind spinning around, drifting from here to there. What is causing this drifting? Papañcasaññāsaṅkhā. This is the momentum. Okay. This is Bhikkhu Bodhi's explanation, which I like very much. For the ones who love it, who love to listen, to understand it in a more sophisticated way. Yeah. the propensity of the worldling's imagination to erupt in an effusion of mental commentaries. Your narratives, effusion, 尖嘴為講, effusion of mental commentary that obscures, it hides away the bare data of cognition, meaning to say, you can't bring your mind to just see, seeing, hear, hearing, think, thinking. No, not think, thinking. It is wrong. Hear, hearings. You cannot bring your mind to just having sense contact and recognizing when sense base meets object and consciousness present. You can't get your mind to that level. Your mind is always caught up at a higher level of drifting and proliferating, of running around and so on. It can't sink down to the level of contact and registering contact. That level is sanya. That's all. But no, we have problems getting it there. Okay? Now I bring back that para again. It's the same para, but this time with the English word. You remember earlier on, as to the source and so on and so forth, so many words. In Pali, this is the first time I'm actually introducing, oops, I didn't move, right? I'm introducing the whole Pali word here. You see, this means as to the source, monks, the individual has this problem. Papañcasaññāsaṅkhā samuddacharanti. It besets mental notions and also this is the problem, papañcasaññāsaṅkhā. This part as the baseline, if nothing is found there to delight in, welcome, hold on to. There are three verbs here. Delight, welcome, hold. This is the end of the underlying tendency to, and then there's a whole string of them, which I will explain later. Loosely paraphrase, if one finds nothing to delight in, welcome and hold on to. I string this to the three verb to DWH. You just remember this, okay? DWH is delight, welcome, hold on to. In the source of papañcasaññāsaṅkhā, it will be the end of underlying tendencies to all these. Now I explain. Delighting, welcoming, holding on are three different verbs. Buddha was not showing off his command of vocabulary and thesaurus, okay? Those are three words that explain how we enjoy, and that enjoyment leads to craving. These three verbs, if you look at your mind and how you welcome, how you engage with something you like or you don't like, it's three words. First, you must delight in it, meaning you must find pleasure and you enjoy the taste, whether it's a sight or a sound or smell or taste or touch or a mind object. You must first find delight. You must first find pleasure. You must first enjoy it. But because you enjoy it, you want it repeated. Hence the word welcome. Okay? You enjoy it, you will welcome it. To welcome it is to invite it to come again. When you welcome someone, you are not saying, hey, you come once already, don't come anymore. You always want him to visit again. And as a result of welcoming, you will now cling onto it, hold onto it. They are beautiful Pali words. MN18 in the earlier, sorry, now I have a problem. you see the Pali word here, abhinanditaba. Nandi, you remember Nanda, the monk? It's a joy. So you enjoy it, nanditaba, to be enjoyed. Abhiwaditaba, welcome, okay, welcome. Hosi, ajositaba, hold and grab, cling. So what you have, these are lovely Pali words. Not the next word, the word is Evan Santo. Later we'll talk about that. So you see, delighting, welcoming, holding onto a source of papañcasaññāsaṅkhā, the source. If you find that in the source of papañcasaññāsaṅkhā, if you find that in the source of that issue, you do not delight, you do not welcome and not hold, that's it. Game's over. That's basically what he said. Okay? I said, so I went on to talk about choices made with avijja. In all this delighting and welcoming and so on, it's a choice. You're making choices. This is your karma, volition. And all these choices, you choose to do it because there is ignorance. If you have no ignorance, you will not find delight. But it's because we all have ignorance. We still have ignorance of the noble truths. Because of that, we will delight. Okay? Now comes the other words. Again, this stanza. As long as there is delighting, welcoming, and holding, there will be underlying tendencies to lust and aversion, and etc., etc. In other words, lust, aversion, views, doubt, etc., etc., they are consequences of us delighting, welcoming, and holding. You enjoy, you like, you want to repeat. Because of that, there is lust, aversion, views, and so on and so forth. Okay? I said, note mental construction activities. Now, you see, lust and aversion are very instinctive. You are not aware of the construction, the mental construction, but it's there. They all have mental construction. But with lust and aversion, it's very instinctive. You see a face you don't like, anger arises. It's very instinctive. You don't have to think about it. Agree? You don't actually have to think. But you look at this view is miccha ditti. It's in Pali, it's ditti, but it's actually miccha ditti. It's wrong views. Okay? Right views is okay. Right views, if you have the right understanding and right views, it's a separate issue. This is not it. But we have wrong views. We have wrong views. We worry. Our conviction is not strong, so we have doubt. We have conceit. Conceit is a comparison going on. When the word conceit comes up, we usually think of ego, but it's actually comparison. It's not just ego. It's a comparing. If you're the only human around, the conceit matters not. What are you going to conceit with? Conceit about. But because you're not the only human around, there's plenty to be conceit about. I'm better looking. You need another person to compare. You cannot compare with a tree. Right? It has to be another person. I'm richer. It has to be many people to compare with you. I am cleverer. I know the Dhamma better. If there isn't another fellow who knows the Dhamma, you are Buddha. No need to worry so much. You see what I'm saying? So, conceit, desire for, it's an underlying desire for being. There is a sense of wanting to be around, be alive, to be something. Being is very specific. It's being something. To be, and then in that being, there is something else. whether it's a view or experience or a memory or whatever it is, there is a being something. And then, of course, ignorance. Ignorance, we know, is wrong. It's completely ignorant of the Four Noble Truths. Okay? So, because we delight, we welcome, and we hold, the result is we have a whole series of construction that is into this all category. Lasting, anger, talk, not sure, uncertain, compare, contrast, and so on. Because of your delighting, you have this problem. And I call this samsara. That is us, trapped in wrong view, having the papañcasaññāsaṅkhā going on and on and on, having all this craving going on and on and on and on. You have anusayas. Anusayas is very, very much instinctive. All these he calls anusaya of lust, aversion, views, and so on. Basically, you come built in. You are built in with all these habits. All these habits have a beginning. All akusala habits beginning is desire and craving. Okay? And so you can see that they are a bundle of problem. This is all compact. And we are trapped in this one. And because of that, you have dukkha. Okay? We are trapped. Now, this is the depressing part. So, the Buddha left, the monks think about it, and they said, uh-oh, he didn't give detail. Buddha had gone into his dwelling after giving a summary in brief without expounding the detail. Who is going to explain to us now? So they thought about it and they said, let's go look for 𝗦𝘂𝗁, praised by the teacher, esteemed by his wise companions in the holy life. So they sought out Venerable 𝗦𝘂𝗁, who had been declared by the Buddha to be the most eminent disciple in expounding a detailed meaning of a brief saying. In Majjhima Nikaya, there are 3 suttas that 𝗦𝘂𝗁 came in to explain in detail what is said in brief. Okay, and this is one of them. And I introduced to you Bhikkhu Bodhi, what he said about 𝗦𝘂𝗁. Basically, 𝗦𝘂𝗁 is a very analytical man. He was very analytical, he's very sharp. His explanation is very precise, but a little dry. A little dry. So you look at what he said, this sutta is a little dry because he's to the point. He does not introduce, he doesn't introduce what they call it rhetorical devices, meaning your imageries and your verses and all those lovely sounding words, and he doesn't do any of those things, plain and precise. Okay, I call him, now I introduced the background of 𝗦𝘂𝗁 because when these guys become Arahant, their background doesn't change. It doesn't make them different. Their background actually adds on to what they can do. And 𝗦𝘂𝗁 was, I call him, I use a Chinese word here because there's no English equivalent. In English, the translation calls him a chaplain, but I don't like that word. It's very Christian based. He is like the religious, he's the religious advisor of the king. Avanti, the king of Avanti, okay? And therefore, he was a well-educated Brahmin. He knows the Vedic very well, the Vedas very well. He has big picture. And as a Gwasi, his job would be also to explain things to people. That may account for why he's so good at this. It is his job to explain the mysteries of the world to the king and to the court. So he's very comfortable talking to an audience of people. Okay, he has the training, he has the experience, he has that skill, the skill set to explain things. Okay, and so to cut a very long story short, I'm not going to read through here. He basically told the monk, "Are you guys okay? Seriously, you are before the Buddha. He knew everything. He explains everything. He is the teacher of us all. You don't want to ask him, and you come and ask me. And then they say, oh, please. Yeah, you're right. There was the time when we should have asked the Buddha. Yeah, you're right. We should have asked the Buddha. But you know, you are praised by the Buddha as being foremost of one who can expand in details what's said in brief. So if you don't think it's too difficult, you let us and you help us. Okay? So this is the long and short of it, this section. And now comes the third stanza that I want to highlight. In the old days, when they sat and they listened to the Buddha explaining stanza 2, and then they said, oh, we don't understand what he's saying. How does one's view end? That was their point. How does sanya end? Right? Remember, what they wanted to know was, how do you end sanya? Buddha never explained that. So they went to Mahakaccana and said, you explain to us. So he said this, depending on the I and forms, I consciousness arises. The meeting of the three is contact. With contact as condition, there is feeling. What one feels, that one perceives. What one perceives, that one thinks about. What one thinks about, that one mentally proliferates. With what one has mentally proliferated as the source, perceptions and notions tinged by mental proliferation beset a man. This is the papañcasaññāsaṅkhā, okay? With respect to past, future, and present, forms cognizable through the I. The I. I said you note the change in sentence construction. Meeting of the three, when dependent on this, and this, I form consciousness, I consciousness, the meeting of the three is contact. With contact as condition, there is feeling. This is mechanical, it's objective. This is just the body doing its work. The body and mind doing what it's supposed to do. But when you feel what one feels, in that feeling, this is the 5 aggregates of grasping. It's called grasping because in feeling you grasp. In feeling there is holding. You translate what is a sensation into my feeling. So what one feels, what I feel, I will sanjanati. The sanya kickstarts. Sanya is that which knows and recognizes. So when I feel something, I think about it. But this perceives, is perceived. You touch and you recognize. So in things that we have feelings, when we feel, the I will appear. The self will appear. The ownership will appear. That's what it means. That is why in the sentence construction, it shifts. The meeting of the three is contact. With contact as condition, there is feeling. There is nothing, it's mechanical. When this happens, this happens. When this happens, this happens. But when one feels, what one feels, one perceives, the I has appeared, the individual, the being, the identity, the ownership has appeared. The sense of distinction has appeared. What one feels, one perceives. What one perceives, one thinks. The word here is vitakkheti. Vitakka, remember your first jhana? Vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha, and so on. This is the same vitakka. Vitakkheti. It's a logical, it's a sense, it's a it's still thinking about something that is not imagining. It's there, you think about that thing. But when you papañcasaññāsaṅkhā, that's when you spin. You run off with an idea. You run off already. You are now spinning. The mental proliferation has started. So this is construction. This is construction, but there's two different types of construction. Two different types of sankhara. This one has, oh, so you want to do what? That stop. And then in your mind it goes, yeah, he's always like that. He's not a nice person. He always has this problem. He's a lazy bum. Take breath. Some more. That is papañcasaññāsaṅkhā. Look at your own mind. Look at our own life. Isn't that how we work? This is how it's broken down. You see how that the clarity of a mind capable of breaking down and experience, a mental experience. You see, you connect, you register, you recognize. I recognize. Okay, so it means this. I think. Yeah, man, it means this. And then I proliferate happily. What's a practitioner? A practitioner must recognize. You want to talk about practitioner? The practitioner must recognize contact. There is feeling. In the feeling, there's nobody. So the one things, this one thing, that part here, a practitioner is learning to say, no I, no mind, no self. Right here is what we are supposed to do. In that sensation, you must disown the sensation and do not let that sensation becomes part of your imaginary being. Okay? Feels. Right here, it has to start. But if you cannot do that, you minimally must know this is a delusion. This part, the one has appeared. Okay? One thinks, one perceives. So, msikong, you think means you are right. It is already delusional. Okay? Now, let's explain this. Sentence construction. What is the source of papañcasaññāsaṅkhā? This is so funny. Oops. The source of papañcasaññāsaṅkhā is the mind's own cognition process. Feel, perceive, think. And in each of these, there is delighting, craving, and attachment, conceit, and delusion. The source of papañcasaññāsaṅkhā is when you feel, you think, and you proliferate. Right at that point, it already started. Then I said there is the insertion of time component, right? Past, future, and present. Time is mind-made. What you have is present. Now. Anything of the past has been stored by your mind, right? If it has been stored by your mind, then that characterization of that past is what you have created and stored away. That's why I say the past is mind-made. Then we know that the future hasn't arrived. But your perception of what it should be is what caused you to have hope or fear, despair or delight. It's what you imagine it to be. Therefore, future is also mind-made. There is no future until you get there, until we experience it. Until we experience it, there is no future. But you can already have a taste of the future through your mind. What you imagine it to be is your future. That is why I said they are artificial and they're mind-made. And they are connected only because you sew together a story. It's weaved, it's sewn. And the capacity to do all these things will reinforce delusion. The delusion of time, the delusion of I, the delusion of possession, fabrication of pleasure, and so on. Do you understand this? I'm depending on two people to nod their head. Okay. And this delusional story of the 5 grasping aggregates is perpetuated and acted out in all the 6 sense spaces. You understand this? Depending on the hear, the sound, depending on the nose, the smell, depending on the tongue, the flavors, the body, tangibles, the mind objects, consciousness arise, there's contact, with contact as condition, there's feeling, what one feels, one perceives, what thinks about, mentally proliferates. And then all these have present, past, and future. And we are constantly engaged in a mind-made reality. As long as your mind is not present and aware, as long as the mind is telling a story, thinking about objects, then the mind is acting out delusions. Okay? So we move on. This segment, which I will not go into because subsequently I've got more things to cover, this segment merely say it's repeat order, okay? The reverse order, sorry, the reverse order. If there were no this, if there were no I form consciousness coming together, it would not be possible to point out contact. This and this, they are together. If the 3 I form consciousness come together, it is possible to point out manifestation of contact, meaning there is such a thing as contact. Because there is the manifestation, there is that appearance of contact, it is possible to point out the manifestation of feeling. And it goes on, okay? I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this. I'm going to move on. Monks happily counter-check with Buddha. Just flash out a few things. They went to tell Buddha to say that 𝗦𝘂𝘁𝗁 expounded the meaning to us with terms, statements, and phrases. This expression always pops up. What it tells you is when we are looking at the Buddha's teaching, you must pay attention to words in context. Always in context. The terms, because the words used in different contexts may have a slightly adjusted meaning. So the terms in a statement, in a phrase, always in context. So for all of us who are interested in reading sutta, do not take word in isolation, learn them in the context. Okay? The second thing here is, Buddha said, 𝗦𝘂𝘁𝗁 is wise, he has great wisdom. If you had asked me, I would have said the same way. Such is the meaning of this, so you should remember it. You must remember, you must recognize and understand it correctly. So I said, register it correctly. In this practice, there is always this, first you learn and you remember correctly. Register correctly means you don't learn wrongly. As much as possible, you must always be very clear in your mind, what does a word mean in this context, in this phrase? And how do I see it in my mind? How do I experience it? And you have to then remember what it was said, so that when you are practicing, when you are reflecting on your mind and experience, you have the correlation which is correct. Register it correctly, remember it precisely. Remember it intact, and then recalling it is not for the fun of memorizing. It is for the fun of, it is for the necessity of application. You recall it correctly, you look at your mind and you apply it in daily life. In preparation for this talk, I spent many days memorizing and then reflecting and comparing, and then it became very clear why he said it in a certain way. Because it actually means that. That is how the mind works. Delight, welcome, hold. This is how your mind works. You don't believe, tonight you go stare. Stare very hard. When you enjoy something, you look at it. Because that's how the mind works. And it goes on. All these, papañcasaññāsaṅkhā, you just stare at the mind. You hear, you see, you see something, you hear something. There is this, oh, nice. Oh, start now. Yeah, it's me. Oh, how do I drop this? The mind has started moving really, start talking all over the place, and so on. Okay. So this is a short one before we go into another portion. This one is where this is the only sutta that I can remember. I don't remember another sutta like that, but this is the only sutta that I can remember where the Buddha named the sutta. He says, oh, how should we remember this? And he says, well, you can remember it as the Honey Ball Discourse. This is the only one that seems to carry a name. And I think, I don't know why. I honestly don't know why the Buddha named it. But I will, if you ask me, I'm going to make a guess. I'm saying that it made such an impression with people. They love it so much. The monks, can you imagine? They were puzzled. They were so puzzled by what he said. So they tore their hair, well, because there's no hair, right? So they clenched their head, and then they went off and looked for Mahakachana, who then helped them to understand. So they cracked the code. And after they cracked the code, they were so happy. It's like a man exhausted by hunger and weakness. So they must have worked very hard. They came upon a honey ball. The teaching that Mahakachana gave them was the honey ball. And in the course of it, they found that sweet, delectable flavor. So they love it. They love it so much. And that's what happened. He said, in the course of scrutinizing with wisdom, the meaning of the discourse finds satisfaction and confidence. So I'm guessing that they all had so much fun. They love it so much. And then Buddha gave it a name. Okay? Now, what's the takeaway? I'll pause here a little bit. If you think about it, this is not an easy sutta to understand. It is hard because it requires, the only way you can understand this sutta is you really go stare at your mind and you correlate what you see in your mind with what is explained here. And then it goes on to the rest. Whichever part that you understand means that's the part you have understood the mind to be. You have seen, you have witnessed, you have bore witness to your own mind and then have a certain impression of it. And then you begin to toddle your way to the rest of the teaching, right? So how do we apply this in daily life? I call it the PSS formula. Panya, Sila, Samadhi. In everything that we do, in every sutta that we come across, I've mentioned this before in some other classes. I always say, always ask yourself, what is the takeaway? And if you don't know any better, for whatever reason you say, I don't know, then I teach you, you go look for the Panya, Sila, Samadhi component. Because in his method is called Eightfold Path, right? We know in short Eightfold Path. Actually, it's Panya, Sila, Samadhi, okay? His method is Panya, Sila, Samadhi. Then the teaching must have those as components, okay? So what is the Panya component? For me, this is uniquely for me. This is not the full answer and it's not the comprehensive answer. In the course of your life, when you start to apply this teaching into your life, you may become aware of certain other Panya takeaway. So for me, the Panya takeaway is we have this problem with papañcasaññāsaṅkhā. We have this problem, and it gives rise to all kinds of proliferations and all kinds of issues. If you are aware that your mind has a propensity to spin story, run all over, be deluded, be caught up, if you have that awareness that your mind has this problem, then don't take it too seriously. every time your mind starts to talk, you tell your mind, you are starting to 𝗠𝗱𝗃𝗧 again. You're starting to having this problem. Stop, pause, give other people a chance. Not that they know any better, they also papañcasaññāsaṅkhā away. It's okay. We will have to tell ourselves, our world is a mind-made world. Our world is one where we get caught up, and it's underpinned by all our akusala habits. The anusaya tendencies, remember? Anusaya. The anusaya means underlying tendencies. And we have 7 minimal mentioned here, underlying tendencies for raga, lust, desire, for patigha, anger, ill will, aversion, underlying tendencies there. For ditthi, wrong view, meaning our mind jumps to conclusions. Wrong view is very specific. In the Buddha's mention of wrong views, it deals, as a summary, it deals with the disbelief in karma, the disbelief in multiple realms of existence, the disbelief that there's such a thing as consequences to action, and therefore you don't see that you have any obligations. You don't owe anyone anything. Whereas a practitioner is fully aware. A practitioner is fully aware that he owes a lot of people a lot of things. It's a sense of gratitude to the world, because you are conditional arising. Who you are today is the result of many people through many interactions. And there is so much that you owe to others for what you are today. And so on and so forth. So that's views. And then there is conceit, there is doubt, underlying tendencies to have doubts and conceit. You notice that doubt and conceit are actually opposite. If you're very sure of yourself, they are not identical, but they are ideas, that there are habits that come on together. If you have very strong doubt, the odds are you have very strong conceit. You're very sure you're right, or you're very sure someone is wrong, or you have all kinds of questions, and the chances are you will compare a lot. Then there is this underlying tendencies to, we are never satisfied with one moment existence. We are perpetually in our mind pushing it to the next moment, to the next moment, to the next moment. That is power. You look at your mind, you are never in this moment. Your mind is constantly running ahead to the next moment, to the next moment. It's a habit, it's a tendency. You actually have to put a full stop and hold yourself, say, stay in the moment. Stay in the moment. So that the power doesn't keep shooting. And avijja. Now, sometimes people say, no, we're not very avijja. No, avijja is just, it's a very, it's a habit, but it's also an instinct. What do I mean? Because our mind is configured in a certain way that you don't realize you are having avijja even. Just an example, just as an example, how many of us actually live our life fully cognition of mortality? Very few, very rare. We hardly ever think about mortality. If we think about mortality, we will not enjoy the moment. It's as simple as that. But we don't think about mortality, number one. And number two, the built-in instinct is in us, right? This is an instinct. The built-in instinct is in us is to gravitate towards pleasure, towards happiness, towards, if I want to, in a word that a Singaporean audience will understand like that, song. How many of us would gravitate towards song, gravitate towards pain? And we don't. We gravitate away towards this. It is not right or wrong. It's just that this habit to gravitate, to choose, to cling, that habit drives the abhijja. In other words, it drives the abhijja. Okay? So, panya, be aware of papañcasaññāsaṅkhā. Don't take thoughts too seriously. Don't get caught up in yourself and so on and so forth. Sila. We have to be aware of our propensity to delight, to welcome, and to hold. I said at least know the danger, meaning to say, yes, our habit to delight is there, to welcome is there. But you must know that when we keep doing this part, it will then cause us to become attached, very strongly attached. If you are not aware of the mental habit to delight, welcome, and hold, if you're not aware of a mental habit to do this, you can't even escape. You are literally trapped. You are trapped and you don't know you are trapped. When you know that habit is there, you know, oh, this is not so good. You know that. Then maybe one day you can get tired of enjoying. When you get tired and you realize that it's meaningless, at that point, the wisdom comes in, the escape is possible. Without recognizing that this is a danger, there is no escape. Okay? The samadhi component is this. The more you are aware of how your mind proliferates and tells stories and spins all kinds of delusional words and ideas and thoughts, the more you are aware of that, the more you are aware of how your mind clings and chases and hold on to, and the more you become aware of these, the result is the mind talks less. That's what I mean, less sanya. It starts to calm down. It starts to be less caught up. Less sanya, less quarrel with the world. Less quarrel with yourself. You are part of the world. See how often our mind sometimes argue with ourselves. So the quarrel is not just outside, it's also in here. And the result is there's more peace, more blissful, a happier life. So the takeaway, you can go through and have your own sense of what that sutta is all about. And you can then, as you apply, my suggestion is use this as a formula and see whether you can have more takeaway for yourself. This is all teachings for yourself. Okay? Let me see. Okay, I've come to the end of the talk. This is the web links to the reference material. This is the article that I was telling you about. It's a very good article. Okay. How do I get to the question? I've come to the end of my talk. When nothing is found there to delight in, what does there over here mean? Can it be? No. There refers to whatever that you experience. In whatever that you experience, there refers to in whatever experiences that you have. In whatever experiences that you have, there in that experience, you find nothing to delight in. So in your, say, you hear something, you see something where there is a contact, and then you have an experience. In that experience, there's the vedana. In that vedana, you find nothing to delight in. In that sanya, you find nothing to delight in. In whatever experience that you have, if you have nothing to delight in, then your mind starts to calm down. You do not get into the papañcasaññāsaṅkhā. Okay? For practical purposes in our daily life, how do we stop before delighting? Is it just in the seeing? Yes. Whenever there is a contact, a Vedana happens. The condition for contact, Vedana arises. In that Vedana, very quickly, very quickly, you will already see the sanya. It's so close that it's almost, a friend has used the word conjoined. It's so close, it's conjoined. But it's actually when you have that contact and there is a Vedana. In that Vedana, you know it's a pleasant sensation. You don't have to delight. It is not pleasant or unpleasant or neutral. That's not the issue. The issue is delighting. So if you find pleasure, and in the pleasure, you want to repeat, and in that, there is a holding on to that. The repeat, you hold on to the pleasure, you hold on to the repeat, you hold on to that. That's where the problem is. So here, the question is, how do you stop? You stop, see the contact as just a contact. See the sensation that arises as pleasant, it's just pleasant. It's a pleasant sensation. There is no need to delight in the pleasant sensation. What you have to watch for someone who is relatively new to this, you have to watch that delighting that comes with the clinging. It's 3 steps: delight, welcome, cling. See the delight, from there the welcome, then the cling. You see how much you can push back. Initially, it's about the clinging. Don't cling. Eventually, it's the delighting. Delight is just like that. It's a pleasant sensation. That's it. Full stop. See what I'm saying? Is it in the seeing? Yes. Seeing means you are hitting it at contact. In the contact, you see it. For many of us, once there is a contact, there is the sensation. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. If more and more of the sensation is one of neutrality, meaning to say it's neither pleasant, it's neither pleasant nor painful. More and more you experience contact as such, then you are easing towards non-delighting. You see, you experience, that's it. You see, you experience, that's it. You see, there's a sense, there is a Vedana arises, that's it. You know what it is, okay. The part about having an experience, knowing what it is, that part is not the problem. It's being attached to any of them that is the problem. Papañcasaññāsaṅkhā, underlying tendencies to this, can we apply Noble to start off on the right view? Yes. All parts of the training starts off with the right view. See the papañcasaññāsaṅkhā as from there leading to an underlying tendencies to have all the other akusalas. Having a right view means recognizing the problem, abandoning it, abandoning the holding, abandoning the propensity of the mind to choose to enjoy. Letting go of that wanting to enjoy, then letting go of the enjoyment, allowing it to rest. Don't go stir it. So if you're saying applying right view, yes. Applying right view is recognizing that any form of enjoyment leads to craving, which is the craving is dukkha, knowing that, letting it be. Letting the taste, the wanting to taste, the wanting to repeat delight, letting that rest. Okay? Earlier on, before I was interrupted, we were talking about paticcasamuppada. And I've said before, paticcasamuppada really was the Buddha showing how from having ignorance will lead to one's mind having craving. And because of that craving, leading to dukkha. This is actually showing how a view, a perspective, a lens can lead to dukkha. It is not showing it in terms of a thought process. It's not a thought process as such. Actually, embedded in paticcasamuppada, embedded there is your aggregates, the 5 aggregates. And depending on which aspects of the aggregates surface as the leading connector, it's actually the aggregates. Because you see, from avidya leads to sankhara. What is sankhara? It's one of the aggregates. From sankhara leads to vijnana. What is that again? It is also an aggregate. It's from vijnana, it leads to nama rupa. It is supposed to lead to nama. But what's nama rupa? The bulk of which is aggregates, isn't it? Because sanya is there, sankhara is there, vedana is there. They are all your aggregates. It's basically embedded in aggregates. The aggregates are binded and they have a conditional expression, conditional arising. But they're all aggregates, they're all together. So if you talk about eye consciousness, ear consciousness, all these experiences of the world, looking at your own mind, all these experiences of your engagements with the world, they all sit on the aggregates. That's all. So if you're fixated about how do you delink these and delink that, you're barking up the wrong tree. In my mind, you're barking up the wrong tree. The only tree you should be concerned about is everything is conditionally a reason. Whatever experience that you have is a conditional arising. And from your own experience, looking at your own mind at that very moment, what is it that you're aware of? I'm aware of sensation, feeling. The fact that you recognize it as a feeling in itself is sanya. When you have a feeling and you recognize that feeling, that recognition is sanya. It's there together. Why you detach? Don't need to detach. Know that in that sensation, there is a recognition. In the recognition, if it leads on to a craving, start ready. You have conditionally eased yourself towards dukkha. So the way I will see it is back off. Observe the mind. See in the vedana, there is a proclivity, a leaning towards pleasant. Know that in this leaning towards pleasant, that in itself is an expression of your craving. Any expression of craving is going to have that sensation of dukkha, unpleasantness. Don't want that. You want to let it go. Tell yourself, no need to get too caught up with the craving. No need to get too attached to the pleasant sensation. And if you are not so attached to a pleasant sensation, you can let go. You understand this? Don't get too hyped out about the different parts of paticcasamuppada. The whole thing means we are conditionally a reason. Okay? Why this conditional? A separate issue which is not asked here and something I wanted to share. Why emphasize on an understanding of conditional arising? The reason is this. In my view, the reason is this. Our regular mind has a tendency to assume control. We assume. We're not even saying it, but very instinctively in our mind, we perceive, subconsciously we perceive control. We choose, therefore it is like that. Assumption of control. But the reality is there is no control. There is conditional arising. The difference, so conditional arising is a diametrical opposite of control. When you control, you say, I choose, therefore. Conditional arising means it comes out as a result of condition. Every experience is conditionally a reason. You can choose, but after that, that's it. You can say, I want like that. But then your experience, your perception, your whether it's pleasant, unpleasant, and then what happened after that, it's out of your hand. It takes on a life of its own. Every experience has its own set of conditions. We all don't want to be angry, but we get angry. We don't want to react badly, but we do that because the experience is actually conditionally. Conditioned upon this, this happens. Conditional upon that, that happens. It's like everything is conditional. So conditionality basically says you have no control. You can choose, but the choice does not imply a result of your choice. You can poke in a certain direction and then things happen. Then things happen. That's actually what it means. Okay? Where nothing is... I think that's about it, right? They're not... When the thought arises, the latch on is very fast. How can one instantaneously stop it before further harm is... When a thought arises, see if you can maintain a certain distance. You don't get into the thought. You see the thought as an object and you say it's a thought. The thought, unfortunately, will come with sensations. Very often we get tripped by the sensation. We get tripped by Vedana. A thought arising is an object, mind object. The contact is when you register that object. But the problem is we get distracted by sense, feeling, Vedana. You look at Vedana, you don't look at the thought, look at the Vedana first. The thought arises, quickly look at the Vedana because contact, Vedana, okay? So a thought arises, don't look at that thought, look at the Vedana. See the Vedana. If it's unpleasant, it's when you get caught up in the narrative. If it's pleasant, also you can get caught up in the narrative. So the first thing you have to do is register there is a Vedana. Pleasant or unpleasant, tell yourself this is not mine. This is objectively conditional. A reason is a Vedana. You see, and if you observe only that Vedana, you don't get caught up in the object. At that Vedana, you recognize it, you practice your right view. This is under conditional arising. If I don't engage it, it will drop. If you practice right view, the Vedana you register and then it stops there. The thought is history already. Don't go and revisit the thought. If you go back and revisit the thought, then you are not practicing what the Buddha taught had explained. You have gone back and you engage it. You are caught up. You are papañcasaññāsaṅkhā away already. So I repeat, you want to stop yourself from thinking too much. Whatever thought that arises is a mind object. It's a contact, mind, object, consciousness, mind, object, registered. That is your thought. At that point, look at the Vedana, because contact, there is a Vedana. You look at that Vedana, if it is pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, you just say pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. You wait a while, you take a deep breath, the thought, that object will start to fade. If you go and engage, is you going into the, I repeat, Vedana, Vedati, you go and think about it, Vitakkheti, then you went to Panya, you recognize, then you went to think about it, and then you went to proliferate. You have gone off already, okay? There are 4 steps. Contact is when there's a sensation, you recognize it, you think about it, then you really construct. It proliferates. There are 4 steps. You catch it at step 1, you are fine. You catch it at step 2, you recognize you are still fine. You go into the, and then you're not fine anymore. That's when you're caught up, okay? I will practice awareness of perception in work. Tame any feeling. How about for pain and pleasant, which no delight? You see, The fact about delight is the opposite is the no delight. But the no delight means you are delighting in the delight. You're delighting in a state where there is no such thing. There is still delight. You prefer, you see, when we have pain, of course we're not delighting in the pain, but our preference is no pain. So when you have a preference for no pain, you are resenting that pain. To resent a pain is to have a preference. You are still attached to a mind before pain. BP, a mind before pain. When the mind has that preference before pain, you recognize what I'm saying, huh? A state of mind before the pain arose. You prefer to have the state before this pain arose. The fact that there is a preference in itself is a reflection of the mind's habit to delight. If the mind has no preference about delighting or not, it will also show no preference to not having pain. Do you understand this? Okay, there is no interaction. So the second point, the second question here, it's clear, right? In any situation where you are dealing with pain, you must also recognize the mind propensity to push away that pain, the aversion to pain. Having aversion means there is a preference, okay? Having a preference means the underlying tendency to delight is still there. It's the same principle. So an underlying tendency to delight, as in delighting, is still DWH. I wish it's DHL, but then it's DWH. It's still the same principle. So then what do? Tell yourself, whatever that is experienced comes and go. It will go. You must have faith that in impermanence, whatever arises will fade away. You must have faith that it will come and go. There is nothing static. Every moment changes. Having that faith makes it easier sometimes to let things be. It comes and it goes. Okay, going back to the first question, how do we stop our mind from mental proliferation when we do things in auto mode most of the time, except putting more method? You want to stop the mind from mentally proliferating, you will need the following. You will need mindfulness, right mindfulness. Right mindfulness means what? It doesn't mean just being present. Right mindfulness means the mind that is aware, anchored in the Dhamma. Right mindfulness requires that the mind is present and anchored in the Dhamma. What does that mean? It means that when your mind is present, there is an awareness of impermanence, change, mortality. There is a sense that when the mind is not craving, the mind is peaceful. There is a sense that in this present awareness, there is no akusala. There is only kusala. There must be kusala. Or at least there's a sense of peace, bliss. The sense of the goodwill, the Brahma Vihara, if you like. Only a mind anchored in kusala, clear about the Dhamma, is in right mindfulness. Otherwise, it is not right mindfulness. It's just mindfulness. Okay? When there is right mindfulness, your papañcasaññāsaṅkhā is minimal. Okay? So you ask me, how do you stop? You stop by anchoring the mind in right mindfulness, because in that right mindfulness, there is also understanding, there is also wholesomeness, and the mind is at peace, and it is aware that it's not proliferating. When that happens, you are fine. There is no papañcasaññāsaṅkhā all over the place. You won't have that problem. Okay? this one I've answered already. Since the papañcasaññāsaṅkhā underlying tendency is last aversion, etc., etc., can we apply the Noble Eightfold Path to start off on the right view? Yes. Right view is always your start point. Right views, at one level, right views is about the Four Noble Truths. It goes on into your 3 characteristics. The 3 characteristics, recalling them is to help you constantly bring the mind back into the Four Noble Truths. Four Noble Truths, in essence, means that in our life, our mind has a strong, instinctive partiality towards pleasure and aversion towards pain. There is a preference and there is that clinging to that pleasant. Cultivating yourself along that line actually means the mind learning acceptance, learning to accept things as they are without preferencing, recognizing that in every moment there is just a moment as a space in time, an experience it's just like that. It's just an experience, and you don't have to keep trying to shape the experience. It's basically what practice is. Accepting what it is, accepting the moment, keeping it wholesome, keeping it pure. And living like this then enables you to live without dukkha, without that dukkha. Okay? I think I've answered the rest already, right? More or less done, unless you have more questions. There is no delight. Okay. Pain, pleasure is separate from delighting, which is a choice. They are 2 separate things. Pain or pleasure is conditionally a reason. And it depends on contact. It depends internal, external. It's all on contact, okay? Delighting is a choice, your verb. You choose to welcome or not, you choose to enjoy or not. If you look at if you have an experience, and in the experience, your mind is very clear, this experience is transient. There is nothing in a transient nature that we want to hold on to. If your mind perceives it like that, then there is no holding, there is no delighting. It is still a pleasant sensation, but you are not enjoying it. You are experiencing it. You still experience the pleasantness of the experience. You still have that, but you do not cling. You don't cling, it means you do not project into the memory, store it there, and then say, the next time I want to repeat that. You don't have that. It's an experience, it's over. It's an experience, you're over. Okay? Some of us may sit here and say, wow, like that, very hard to experience, to enjoy life, it's very hard to do that. Yes, that is why the Arahants end up no longer enjoying. They live life. They have the pleasantness. They experience the joy. There is no doubt they all experience the bliss and the joy of living. The only difference between the Arahants and the rest of us is that they don't cling on to that. They have bliss beyond our imagination. We don't have it like this. But for them, it's all transient. It's all part and parcel of their training and their attainment, their understanding and their realization. And then they will live life experiencing the sublime bliss possible by a mind that is not caught up, that has no views, that is literally abiding. That's all. They're abiding. But in that abiding, it's all kusala and beautiful. Whereas for us, we try to shape our life. We want to shape our experience. And it's in the effort to shape that we fail. In trying to shape, we're trying to control. In trying to control is ignorance. The practitioner, the arahants, the very excellent practitioners, they don't try to shape. They just live, and they manage that mind. So when they manage that mind, then that mind can literally be in any situation, in any circumstances, and they're still at peace, because the peace is internal. It's a buffer for them. The world can be falling apart, and it's very distressing for the whole everyone else. But for them with no views, no clinging, there is only just abiding. So it's very easy for them. Okay?
There's one more last question.
It pops in.
Jhanas, about jhanas.
Sorry? Does this help us uproot the anusaya, or does it require... Jhanas means the mind becoming very sharp and very clear. In that clarity, there is right jhana, the right concentration, and there is wrong concentration, okay? In the Buddha's concentration, in the Buddha's samadhi, right concentration, there is, you talk about deep jhana, implying that it's some magic. It is not. It is a mind becoming very still, very detached, very aware, clear aware, without biases and stain. Because it's so clear, it knows when there is no interlocutor of delusional thoughts. It doesn't have any of those. So a mind that is this clear will therefore be able to to set aside the anusayas. But without understanding, without right understanding, and without putting it into daily life and constantly understanding and reflecting and letting go, without that, then what is experienced in meditation doesn't get transferred much out. Okay? Meditation is not the pill that cures, or it's not the panacea that cures everything. But you cannot have no meditation and hope to complete this journey. This Dhamma practice requires the mind to go sharp and clear enough to be able to see the nature of the mind without the distortion of life. Only in meditation you can see it with that kind of clarity. Okay? So if you ask me, do you need samadhi for enlightenment? Yes. Do you need deep samadhi for enlightenment? No lah. Not to the level where the mind can do gymnastics. But you need it still enough. You need it quiet. You need to stop talking. And you need to know you have stopped talking. Sometimes we think we've stopped talking, but actually you don't even realize that there is still a background noise there, cha-cha-cha-cha by itself. So the jhana, the usefulness of the jhana, in my view, is it helps you to be very clear what exactly is happening in your mind at any one point. That's the critical importance of jhana. Okay?
There's one last question. I think after this, we should have to close the session.
What is that last question?
With contact comes so much issues. Does restraint on contact then is a way?
No. The problem is not the contact. The problem is the Vedana. Vedana onwards is where the problem is. Contact is just contact. So you can have your experience and then know that in the you don't have to cling on to the experience. You see what I'm saying? So if you go and hide, let's give you an example. In extreme case, you decided that interacting with people is the problem. So you go and run and hide in the forest somewhere, Bukit Timah Hill, in the middle of Bukit Timah Hill, where there's no track there, and you stay there happily on your own. And you may then imagine that you are realized and you are attained. No, you haven't even met the people. You don't know where is your anusaya or the underlying tendencies. It's only where you have contact with the world that you know where your anusayas are. And as long as there is an anusaya, means there is a proclivity in you to delight. You will still choose, pick and choose pleasures, aversion to pain. You will still have that problem. And as long as you have that problem, you're not enlightened. There will still be dukkha. You're not enlightened. Sometimes interacting with people is not the problem. It's whether your interaction is wise or not. It's whether you're exercising wisdom in your interaction. Contact in itself is not the problem. Choosing feelings, pleasure, enjoying, and thinking that enjoying is okay, that's the problem. Problem in what sense? That's the source of proliferation. You will continue to proliferate as long as you enjoy, you have choices. You have choices, you will form opinions. You form opinions, you will think a lot. So if you ask me, a practitioner, our kind of pattern one, we're all learning, we're all walking on this path. As we walk on this path, what then must we do? Because we are all walking, right? As we walk on this path, always in the back of your head, always remember, we delight, we enjoy, we are reinforcing habits of craving. That habit is the source of dukkha. It's the origination of dukkha. So we learn to accept, we learn to embrace. Accepting means it's okay. You keep telling yourself it's okay. If you have an opinion, this is your mind, your conceit talking, your mind stamping views. Just tell yourself, we have a lot of views. It's okay. Don't take yourself too seriously. Let it be. And as the more you can let things be, the more you can accept, the more you can recognize that in a lot of these views, it's just another view. It's a lot of arisings. So you tell yourself, it's okay. Don't worry about that. Don't think too much. Thinking too much will cause more and more issues. As you keep letting go of your habits to think and justify, especially if yours is of the righteous one, must be like that. This kind of must be like that is very problematic. It only gives you, the more it must be like that, the more pain you will have. You just tell yourself that. And then it gets, over time, you'll find that life is easier because you don't have so many views, you don't have so many opinions, you can accept all kinds of vedana. Then it's so much easier. Life is easier already. Okay? We have listened to a talk. Here, sitting down here, we have benefited very much from the Buddha's teaching. All of us, many of us here are practitioners seeking the path and hoping that in this lifetime, we would have done enough to anchor us on the path so that we may not lose our way in future lives. We are very happy that we had this occasion to share. And we would like to dedicate this merit of participating in a wholesome Dhamma activity. And we're going to share this with our departed relatives and friends. Join me in saying Idam me 3 times. Idam me niyatinang hotu sukita hontu niyateyo. Idam me niyatinang hotu sukita hontu niyateyo. Idam me niyatinang hotu sukita hontu niyateyo. Let this merit accrue to our departed relatives and may they be well and happy.
Jessie,
Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Thank you, Sister Sylvia, for your precious time and imparting your knowledge to us. And I shall proceed with the closing chant. Mano pumbam gama dhamma mano seta mano maya manasa che patutena basativa karotiva kato namdu gamnan veti kakangva bahato padam. Mano pumbam gama dhamma mano seta mano maya manasa che pasatena basativa karotiva kato nam sugam nan veti ichayava anapaini kato nam sugam nan veti ichayava anapaini kato nam sugam nan veti ichayava anapaini. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, we have come to the end of the session. Thank you everyone for coming. May you all have a good opening of the CB. Thank you.
Thank you.